Have you ever seen the movie or familiar with the book series OSS 117?
I believe I'm familiar with the movie.
Okay.
This was a French James Bondy
Correct.
type. I don't know if it was a parody or a pastiche, or if it was just a general spy movie with some comedic highlights.
It predates Ian Fleming's work by about 4 years.
Okay.
Let's see. Josette Bruce is the author's name, and I think he did 88 different books about this OSS 117. Wow. And then his daughter picked it up and wrote another 100 and some odd books about it.
Good gravy.
But, and they did make some movies in the, I believe, the 50s and 60s, but it was a serious kind of thing. And then it was revived with taking it the same character, Hubert Bonus. I don't know how to speak French. Hubert Bonsieur Labath is the agent's name, but they did a take where it was about the humor instead of just about the being a spy. So that's where you said the French version, and it was about 2006.
That seems right.
Yeah. Yep, and they've got 2 movies and one which is coming out later this year in French. The first one was OSS 117 Cairo. The second one was Lost in Rio, and the third one From Africa with Love.
With Love. Is there any better way to be from Africa than with love?
I don't know. Yeah. I'm kind of interested in the way they handle the womanizing nature of Bond kind of thing.
Well, and I think there's a huge difference, and this is where I don't want to say national character or national personality necessarily, because I don't like painting with too broad a brush. But this is where I sort of gravitate now, here in my later years, although I'm still a huge, fan of the James Bond property per se. I find a lot of more compelling tales and characters in stuff like John le Carré, right? Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy,
right?
Or that I think there was a BBC miniseries called The Game that came out a couple of years ago, where spy work is largely done in offices, and by asking innocuous questions and doing a lot of paperwork,
right?
And there's some element I know in terms of glamorizing it for the era, right? A lot of that stuff is period work from the 50s, 60s, and 70s when you didn't have, a laser watch or an invisible car. Not that we have those things today.
I totally have a laser watch.
Oh, wow.
It's actually a laser swatch.
Oh. Of course.
It overheats all the time. It melts. You got to replace it.
You got to replace that with neon rubber banding.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, no, I find I like those because I think they focus more on they definitely hew more close to realism in terms of what it means to be an intelligence officer or a counterintelligence officer.
Right.
But I also think they get to the core of kind of what my fascination with spies is, which is largely seeing things you're not supposed to see and knowing things you're not supposed to know and getting away with it. And so, I find a lot of the more lower tech adventures, that don't focus on helicopter chases and explosions and things like that, to me are more compelling in the same way that a mystery novel is more compelling than an adventure novel.
Okay.
And I don't know that there's a good way to gamify necessarily that type of spying in a video game. Now, I've played a lot of board games that have done a really good job of giving you that sort of more cerebral internal experience.
Right.
But, I don't know that there's a good way to do that via a video game.
Yeah. Hold that thought, because I've got, because I'm thinking the balance that IO Interactive needs to strike here is going to be probably tricky, but let's talk about that later.
Okay.
And one other interesting thing about this agent, Hubert Bonsieur Labath. Yeah, that's actually in the movie. You just hear Labath all the time. So it's like, I know that dude. He's the guy on the screen. His character is an American colonel from Louisiana of French descent.
Wow. So French book.
Right.
French author.
Right.
hero is an American
Yep.
military officer of French descent from Louisiana.
Yep.
Okay.
No,
I think that's a really interesting choice to make. For the French author, right? You would think, okay, I don't know if it speaks to. You said this was written before Dr. No,
right?
So
it's just 4 years. I mean,
but when we're talking when the 50s, maybe,
yeah,
or okay,
yeah,
right. Yeah. So I just think it's a really interesting choice to make because one would assume that, if you're the author of a national secret agent hero, right, that the instinct would be to make them French, right? So I just think that I don't know if there was any underlying motivation behind making him an American military officer of French descent and kind of backing into that sort of nationality aspect.
Yeah. I haven't read the books, or seen any of the original movies. I don't know. I don't know if they have or not.
Seek one of those out. Actually,
yeah.
Let me just make a note here.
John Bruce.
Jean.
Jean. Jean.
The French John.
Yes.
John Bruce. Bruce.
Correct.
Like the shark in Jaws. Got it.
Jaws is the shark's name?
Yeah, they called him Bruce.
Oh.
Well, the machine they called Bruce.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but no, I'll definitely try and track down one of these books because I'd love to see what they're all about, especially if as you say, they're written more straight.
This is all research. I haven't read them myself, so I can't give you an idea as to what I think about it or not. Yeah. I do enjoy the French parody movies, and I enjoy them because they're very subtle in their humor, and I don't know if that's a function of it being a French sense of humor, or if that's a function of just the way that they design them. The jokes are very subtle. Really funny. A lot of the sequences. There's a sequence with 4 secret agent guys who are posing as like other things, right? And they're trying to impress the other one with their knowledge and their quips and all that. And then there's one who's posing, or maybe he's not posing, as a chicken farmer who's just kind of like, do you guys want a drink? You want me to go get some drinks for you? Just the whole it's just like little subtle jokes like that just make the movie really enjoyable. And I hope From Africa with Love does the same thing, because it was just such.
So you'd recommend both of the recent?
Yeah. I don't think they're available on Netflix anymore, but they used to be. But keep an eye out for them if they ever. Probably around the release of the new movie, they might go up. Yeah, or the new Bond film, both. Right.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned something.
Well, that's good. I'm glad.
I mean, as a participant in the podcast, I feel like I've learned something.
Yeah.
And if I'm learning something, then I can only imagine what our dozens of listeners are thinking right now, and how much they've learned just in this short time.
I think dozens is giving us a little too much credit. I'd say handful.
Either a handful or
a couple of digits.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say a couple of dudes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And an ant.
And that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So anyway, that was going to be the name of the podcast originally.
2 dudes and an ant.
2 dudes and an ant. Yeah. Aunt
Nora.
So
God bless her.
Let's recap on our favorite Bonds really quick.
Yes.
My Bond order is from favorite to least favorite. My favorite is Timothy Dalton.
Right.
Daniel Craig.
Right.
Sean Connery. Then George Lazenby. Roger Moore. And then finally Pierce Brosnan. Excellent actor. I just didn't like his portrayal of Bond.
Right. He
was a little too, I don't know.
Smug.
Yeah, he was kind of smug and showy, and just not what I thought of. And coming off the heels of a darker Bond, which I really kind of liked.
I will posit this, because I believe I went on record last episode of saying that I thoroughly enjoyed Pierce Brosnan as Bond. But I will posit this. I think old Pierce Brosnan would make a better Bond than young Pierce Brosnan. I'm saying if you took Pierce Brosnan right now with his luxurious silver mane and distinguished gray beard and cast him in the role of an older, over-the-hill James Bond, a la Sean Connery in Never Say Never Again, I think he would absolutely nail that.
Huh. Maybe we should start our massive letter writing campaign for them to do Never Say Never Again again. That could work.
Never say never again, and this time, damn it, we mean it.
Yeah.
Fine, but this is the last time you get to say never starting now.
Right.
Again.
Yeah. There's and I remember that movie, which was a remake, Never Say Never Again, of Thunderball.
Thunderball.
Yep. One of the things that was interesting, well, for me, that I liked.
By the way, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your point, but I'm going to interrupt your point. At this point in the podcast, you should make room for a clip of that Johnny Cash Thunderball.
I don't know if I can do that though.
Why not?
Because they're rights as far as,
well, you're not selling the podcast.
No, I'm not. But I mean, the algorithm detects that whenever I put it up.
Oh,
yeah. So it scans for that sort of thing. We were going to talk about our favorite theme songs. Thunderball is my favorite Bond movie.
Which I still don't get. But
even with the water.
It's so long.
I know.
It takes forever.
Yeah. But I mean,
there are boat voyages that are over faster than that fight scene in Thunderball at the end.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But anyway, the theme song for Thunderball is my favorite Bond theme song by Tom Jones. But there was a submission made by Johnny Cash for his version of Thunderball, which basically I think follows the story a little more closely than the one that they actually used from Tom Jones, which to me just makes no sense. Strike like Thunderball. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
I don't, but it sounds painful.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think the Johnny Cash version does tell the story, right? Because it makes the allusion to Thunderball being a massive weapon, and nations seeking to use it for their own evil purposes.
Yeah. But he does it in a very
it's allegorical, right? The way he frames it, he could just as easily in the song be talking about a Native American spirit, or you know, a relic of some great ancestry,
right. The James Bond people eventually they came to the conclusion it sounded too Western, but.
Which it does. To be fair, it sounds very Western.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like he could be singing it from on top of a horse.
At the time it was released, it wasn't that kind of the height of Johnny Cash's sort of like the 60s, like the middle 60s. Wasn't he pretty popular? Or did that not come until later?
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because to me, it's like if you're trying to get popular songs or popular artists in there, that's what...
True, but I also think Johnny Cash is probably not was probably not the kind of guy who would go out and write a theme song for a movie because somebody told him to.
Right. No. He did it because he was a fan.
Right.
So interesting.
So that's your top Bond theme is Thunderball, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I also, just to quickly loop back to the Thunderball thing, which I was going to say about Never Say Never Again,
right?
Which was my favorite part of that remake was the Atari designed the special video game that he played against the evil villain instead of doing whatever the
baccarat.
Pass me the shoe.
Right. Interesting side note about baccarat. I spent an evening in Vegas learning how to play baccarat. A buddy of mine and I went, and the rest of our group decided they were going to go off and do fun things. We decided, no, let's make good use of our time and figure out how they play this baccarat game.
Right.
It is terrible.
I hear it's just basically...
It is literally a terrible card game, and there's not much game to it.
Right. I hear it's just basically a game of chance. So the fact that they used it...
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about blackjack and all the strategy and decision-making you have in blackjack, which isn't a whole lot.
Right.
Let's be honest. Sorry, blackjack fans, real talk. Baccarat is basically, you might as well be sitting at the table flipping a coin and betting on the outcome.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of makes sense so that we Never Say Never Again, the scene with the video game that they play where it's like a game of skill.
Right.
It's not so much, and it's something that James Bond has to pick up pretty quickly.
Right.
That kind of shows how flexible he is as a character, which would have been a better kind of thing to use. But maybe that was a thing to just show how he'd aged
Well,
and how wisdom he gained or whatever.
I think that's true. I think also it was the early 80s. Video games were all the rage.
Right.
And I also think to some degree, baccarat. Here's my take on baccarat. First of all,
Okay.
I've already said how it's not much of a game, right? But I also think people tend to play it as a status symbol.
Right.
Let's go to the baccarat table because that's where all the real people who can really afford to piss their money away go to. Right. And I don't think that was necessary with Never Say Never Again.
Right. When you were learning baccarat, did you get your shaken not stirred? Did you get any of that stuff? Did you?
I did.
Seriously?
I did. No, that was the first thing we did was we ordered 2 martinis shaken not stirred, and that's the night I learned I don't like martinis. But yes, we did order one. My buddy had several.
You're like, this is garbage. Give me a gimlet.
I was
or a Rob Roy or something. I don't know.
I switched very quickly off the martinis after the first one because everybody kept telling me, "Oh no, you didn't get the right kind of martini."
No,
and I'm like, wait a minute, what kind of martini? Oh, you should get a dirty martini. Oh, you should get a dry martini. Oh, you should get the olive in the martini. Oh, you should get an onion slice in it. I'm like, none of these things you're telling me sound like they're going to make a martini taste any better than the rubbing alcohol I just poured down my throat.
I'll stick with my Zima. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'll have another helping of that $1.50 shrimp cocktail that's probably going to land me in the John in about an hour.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, so back to, we were talking about theme songs. Oh, you know what? We didn't even go over your top. We went over.
We did that.
Time.
We did that last episode. Nobody needs to hear that garbage list again.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that I was.
No, and I've written down your list in my too vague notebook.
Excellent.
So our show archivist Francine will have that on record.
Oh, we changed archivists recently.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh,
Brutus.
Oh, Brutus.
Yeah.
I'm just writing down Brutus's name.
At 2.
Yeah, at 2.
That's the only reason I said it was Brutus. So let's go to favorite theme song. Do you have a favorite James Bond theme song? A very important part of any James Bond movie, opening sequence theme song.
Absolutely. My favorite, I don't know if I have one favorite. I've got 2 or 3 that I'd throw up there at any given point could potentially be my favorite.
Okay.
First off is Goldfinger.
Right.
Shirley Bassey.
Yeah.
Amazing. Just an amazing song. Amazing orchestral rendition.
Right.
I also like Tina Turner's Goldeneye.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think was written by Bono, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I think you're right.
I think that's a very good Bond song and a good Tina Turner song, frankly.
Right.
And then, I know it was widely loathed by the majority of the general population, but I really liked Another Way to Die, the Jack White, Alicia Keys theme song.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
My other songs that I like, I only like them because I'm an 80s music fan.
Listen. I see where you're going down this road, and I want to say right now, before another word comes out of your mouth, I am 100% down for A View to a Kill.
Okay.
It is a great song.
Okay. And then also Living Daylights by A-ha is also a good one.
That I'm not going to follow you down that road.
All right, whatever.
But I think where A View to a Kill succeeds is that it manages to make Duran... it sounds like a Duran Duran song.
Right.
And it sounds like a James Bond song.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to do, right?
That's
you
true.
need those orchestral stings in there to make it sound a bit Bondy, and I think it works perfectly in View to a Kill.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think about it. And Living Daylights was more just an A-ha song. My very first concert, Duran Duran.
You know what? I'm gonna put View to a Kill back on my list as well, in addition to the 3 that I just mentioned. Because I think that was a terrible oversight on my part.
Well, I forgive you.
Okay. Well, let's hope Duran Duran feels the same way.
Yeah. The Lebans. You know what? Another thing that reminded me of Spies. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite Simpsons episodes. You Only Move Twice. Have you ever seen that episode?
Honestly, I haven't watched The Simpsons in forever.
Oh, geez, what's the guy's name?
Homer?
No.
Bart?
I'm thinking the guy who voiced the character Hank Scorpio. This corporation comes to Springfield and is recruiting it's this very James Bond organization, and Hank Scorpio is this really nice guy to Homer and the family, and just really upbeat. It turns out he's an evil killer villain kind of thing. They move. It's a great episode. You should definitely check it out if you like James Bond, because you'll love You Only Move Twice.
You Only Move Twice.
Yeah, I think it was a 3rd, 4th season episode.
Okay.
The guy, do you remember the movie Defending Your Life?
Oh, yeah, Albert Brooks.
Albert Brooks. Yeah. That's who does the voice of Hank Scorpio.
Oh, okay. I remember him as the EPA guy in the Simpsons movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because he had one of my all-time favorite lines, which is, have you ever tried going mad without power? It's boring and no one listens to you.
Right. Yeah. You'll definitely have to check out You Only Move Twice, because it is a classic in my book. And it ends up with Homer getting gifted the Denver Broncos.
Oh, that's right. And he wanted the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you do remember.
I remember that line in it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. So anyway, okay. Well, let's switch gears.
I'm gonna press down the clutch of insight and shift into the gear of topicality.
Wow. You, as usual, Chris, you have crystallized my thoughts eloquently.
Well, I just know that we've got a lot of truckers out there listening to Too Vague, and so I want to make sure that they know that we're listening to them.
They appreciated me using Citizen Band Radio, even if you didn't. So, just saying. So, anyway, let's move on to IO Interactive. Project 007. Already been working on it. Haven't seen any game footage yet or anything, but if it's anything like the Hitman franchise, which I know that you thoroughly enjoy.
I do.
It's going to be something that really fits into that kind of game.
In their wheelhouse.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
in their wheelhouse.
Now, my only concern with it being right in their wheelhouse is that it's not a clone, right? It's not a clone of the Hitman series, that it's its own, that it stays true to James Bond and spy activities and things like that, not just going out and, eliminating people.
Well, I think here's the thing, right? You ready for the thing?
I'm ready. I'm prepared mentally and physically.
Here is the thing.
Okay.
The genius of Hitman, and I'm talking about the most recent World of Assassination trilogy, right, that IO Interactive has done. Hitman 1, 2, and 3. The genius of that is that it's basically each game in each level is an ant farm that sort of invites you to shake it up, right? And then, dig your own little tunnels in the ant farm and squish this ant over here and see what all the other ants do in response.
Okay.
And I think with a James Bond game, the trick is going to be keeping that level of freedom while still managing to direct the player towards the narrative goal.
Right.
Hitman, it's easy because your narrative goal is kill this person, kill that person by any means necessary. And I think with James Bond, what I would like to see is an expansion of that core mission.
Right.
And how you do that while still keeping the fun of that sort of sandboxy ant farm feel is going to be really interesting to me to see how they thread that particular needle.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that there are a lot of things that can translate pretty well as far as sneaking kind of thing, clandestine sort of activities. Like you've got to bug things and you've got to
let me be clear, they could right now, tomorrow, slap a James Bond skin into Hitman 3 and tell me that this is a James Bond game and have all the levels be exactly as they are today, and I would believe them 100%.
Yeah.
That's how close, that's how much I think the existing mechanics of the Hitman model would support a James Bond game.
Yeah, I would be disappointed if they did that.
Oh, I would too. What I'm saying, though, is I think the foundation in terms of systems like stealth and disguises and being noticed and switching inventory on the fly.
All those things are
already there.
Yeah. They have a lot of really cool things in their toolbox that they can use as far as disguises and things like that to, they could probably reuse some things. I don't necessarily mean assets, but kind of like
Systems.
Yeah. Right.
What they don't have that I'm curious to see if and how they implement, right, are things like vehicles.
Right.
Right. You're going to have some whip-ass vehicles.
Right.
Chase sequences that aren't just a result of the AI twigging to you suddenly not being hidden or disguised.
Right.
Right. Smarter AI in some situations. Right. They're going to need that. They're going to need a wider variety, I think, of things that your inventory can do. Mm-hmm. Right? Some very situation-specific tools that aren't just going to... Like, in Hitman, one of the only things I don't like about the current Hitman iteration is that there's not a lot of variety when it comes to the items, regardless of how many versions of a lockpick you unlock. They all work the same way, and they all do the same thing, right? Which is to basically ungate this door that's been gated from the player, right? So what I'm hoping for in Bond is a little more specificity in terms of the kind of doors and the kind of tools you can use to interact with those systems that are in place. And
we're not talking about like Q branch kind of crazy inventions either.
Right.
Like we're talking about normal diversity of tools. I think I do want to see some of that, but I don't want that to be the focus. I want to see some...
He's not a thief.
Right.
He's a spy.
Right.
Yeah. Although I wouldn't be... If they give me a laser watch, am I going to complain? No. If they give me an invisible car, am I going to complain? No.
Oh, that was like the worst. The invisible car thing.
It was so bad.
Which movie was that? Was that GoldenEye?
That was Die Another Day.
Die Another Day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm soured on Pierce Brosnan.
But then they followed... Well, no, actually before that was... I think World Is Not... No, Tomorrow Never Dies is the one where he steered the BMW from the back seat using the Game Boy DS. No, it was a cell phone. It was his Ericsson cell phone. That's what it was.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have high hopes for IO Interactive and Project 007. I think they know what their core skill set is, right? I think they've got a good foundation in place where they don't have to invent an entirely new engine to do a bunch of this stuff. Right. Hopefully they don't. At the same time, I'm absolutely with you. I want to see them stretch themselves because I think they've got a great eye for design, for level design.
Right.
And I would hate to see just a Bond coat of paint slapped on Hitman 3. Yeah, I think they're better than that. I really do.
Oh, yeah. And I think that based on how secretive they're being about it, I am hopeful that it's going to be something amazing.
I would not be shocked if we didn't see anything about this game until launch was imminent. Like even a screenshot. I think they're smart enough. I think their travails with, what was it, Square Enix? Mm-hmm. That bought them, and then they finally bought their own company back. I think that gave them... I'm rooting for them. Let's put it that way. I'm really rooting for them on this one.
So do you have any specific wish list items that you want to address other than what you already have? Or
in general, or for the Bond game?
For the Bond game.
Oh.
In general.
I mean, I could use a little more hair.
Yeah. Some money would be nice.
Some money would be nice. Yeah. No, I think I've pretty much covered. I just want it to be fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't need it to be as replayable as the Hitman series.
Right.
I don't want it to devolve into another desultory third-person action adventure shooter either. I think they've got a real opportunity here to make something as compelling as Hitman. And I'm just, like I said, I'm really curious to see what that balance will be between the sandbox gameplay and the more traditional Bond gameplay that people were expecting. Because there's a lot of people that don't like their take on Hitman.
See, and that's the thing that's interesting about your thoughts on sandbox games in general and this particular sandbox game is I think the thing that's missing in most sandbox games is a narrative. Is that correct?
That's exactly why I hate most sandbox games.
Okay. So as long as there's a narrative, a path to follow, you do like some freedom and some creativity in doing what you have to do to get the thing done or figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that they just drop you into a level and say, go.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Here's your guy.
You figure out how to do it, and you wander around and you figure out, okay, where are all the moving parts in this level? What happens when? What does pushing this button do over here? What does talking to this person do over here? Yeah. And I like that process of figuring it out. Right. In fact, that's sort of, getting back to what makes a spy, going back to seeing things I shouldn't see, you know, and knowing things I shouldn't know and sort of just observing.
Right.
And I think a large part of the Hitman gameplay that I like is just the observing the little systems, right? Not just, I'm not just talking about things like guard patrols. I'm talking about things like, oh, if I get rid of this waiter over here, this person never gets his drink, so he gets up and goes to the bathroom because his drink's not there. After he goes to the bathroom, he leaves his key card in his chair. And so suddenly getting rid of the waiter has gotten me a key card, right? But I don't know that if I don't watch all of these interactions happen.
Right.
And that's the part where I think the Hitman games just sing. It's like, oh, all of these things are just constantly running like clockwork, and it's my job to figure out where to stick the monkey wrench in.
But they don't try and over complicate that affecting the narrative, the overall.
And that's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
And I think that's what makes it great also is it doesn't get convoluted in all this. Oh, well, if you do it this way, then you're going to have this narrative. And if you do it that way, you pick up some things that are sort of part of, that give you more background on some of the characters or things like that. But other than that, it doesn't impact the main story. You have a mission, you do this thing, and this is your outcome. And then it goes on to the next part of the story.
It's on to the next mission. And yeah, there's a plot, right, involving Agent 47 and an agency far, far more secret than the CIA. But largely what you do in the mission has zero impact on any of that plot line. Right? Your goal as a player is just to eliminate the targets.
Right. And I think that's a trap, right? You can make this, you know, some people want 1,000 different storylines or different endings based on whatever you do. But I think they don't quite understand what they're asking for. What they're asking for is storylines that are crappy, along with maybe one or two good ones. Right? It's if you've got 15 different storylines that you can play.
Right.
There are going to be some that are going to be garbage.
Well, here's the thing. So a good story has to have an ending.
Right.
Right. And a cohesive story has to make you believe in the ending.
Right.
And if you try to leave yourself wiggle room for 19 possible endings based on all this, right, then logically you have to make the center of your story mean nothing, or you have to be willing to gate off huge parts of the work you've done for that story that people will never, ever see unless they replay it a different way.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
But you've got to be aware that that's the trade-off you're making if you still want to deliver a solid story in the end. Right. I don't need 19 different story endings just so that my character ends up wearing one hat instead of another at the end of the game.
Right.
But I think the most important thing is if you're going to tell a story, regardless of the number of them, make it a good one.
Right.
And I think that's difficult to do if you're trying to build in room for player agency.
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem that I had with Disco Elysium, which we may or may not have talked about on a prior episode.
We talked about that.
Yeah. Just in terms of making sure that the end story is a satisfying, you know, you want to put a bow on your narrative. Right. And I get that not every ending has to be tidy, right? Because that's not how real life is. But you also don't want the player at the end thinking, oh, well, I guess that's a thing that happened.
Right. Kind of along the same Disco Elysium lines. With my difficulty with getting into that game is not being able to identify with the character. Now, in Hitman, his virtues aren't the best, right? But he's trying to find a way out. He's trying to find a way to get happiness or something.
He's looking for, if I may be so bold,
but I mean,
a quantum of solace.
Oh, wow.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Right in front of you. Never saw it coming.
I think a lot of people don't like that movie. I don't know why, because I did enjoy it more than Casino
It's okay,
Royale.
but I think it doesn't work outside of the context of Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Like, I would never say to somebody, oh, you want to watch a Daniel Craig movie? Let's throw on QOS, right? Without making sure that they had Casino Royale fresh in their memory.
Right.
Which, by the way,
yeah,
I think more movies should take that approach instead of trying to plot themselves out as a trilogy. I think they should look for duologies instead.
Right. Like multiple, like, you know, they're all leading different things, leading to the same conclusion. You mean like maybe Marvel stuff? I mean,
yeah,
they do it pretty well.
If you told me, listen, we're going to have James Bond movies, and each one is going to be basically a 2-part movie.
Uh-huh.
I'd be down for that. Now that said, there's never been a James Bond that didn't need a half an hour cut from it. But I think if you go into it expecting, I'm going to get 2 meaty stories that form a cohesive, overall plot.
Right.
I'd sign up for that in a heartbeat.
Well, I think that the Daniel Craig Bonds kind of did that with their sort of semi-reboot of their of the Bond series, right? That's pretty much what they did, was they established this sort of timeline that's a little bit like the books, but not quite. But it's like its own. It kind of stands on its own.
Sort of, yeah. No, I think Skyfall definitely stands on its own. I think Skyfall is a James Bond movie for people who love James Bond movies.
Right. Agreed. Agreed.
Probably no accident that it was. I think that was the 50th anniversary of Bond, wasn't it, when that movie came out?
I believe you're right. Yeah. I believe you're right.
Anyway, IOI. Best of luck on Project 007. I know I will probably buy it sight unseen, unless it's some VR bullshit.
I've got a whole huge list. I'm sorry, of things, wish list items that we can discuss really quick. Hit me.
No, we don't even have to be really quick about it.
Okay.
Let's get into it. Let's put on the gloves of wish list excavation and get our teeth dirty.
Where do you come up with this stuff, man? It's great.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I wish I had that kind of brain that worked that so well. Like,
careful what you wish for. These parts work at the expense of others, my friend.
Okay.
So.
All right. So I've got a list. My list starts with chase sequences, !
100%.
Ski, snowmobile, other plane, jetpack. Do you want to see a jetpack in the game?
I don't need a jetpack.
Okay.
And here's why. Jetpacks are dumb. Listen, I was a kid like everybody else.
Right.
Jetpacks are dumb.
Okay.
Listen, either you're going to fly or you're not.
Right.
Don't half-ass it with a jetpack.
Right.
It's the worst of all worlds. The closest we're ever going to get to jetpacks is going to be the stuff that those astronauts use to move around in space, which they need.
Right.
Right? I don't want a jetpack. I love your ski/snowmobile idea. In fact, to me, ideally, that's all one giant chase sequence where the skiing morphs into the snowmobile.
Oh, yeah.
A la, what was it? For Your Eyes Only.
Right. You go from one thing to the other and back to the other.
Not like a transformer.
Right.
But just like environmentally, you're on skis being chased and then, let's hop on this snowmobile.
Oh, wasn't there a thing where he used like a sign or something? It wasn't a sign. It was something where they used, the cello. I'm thinking a different movie.
Living Daylights.
Yeah, Living Daylights, where they used the cello case for...
Right, sliding down the mountain.
Yeah, like things like that where... you can find things in the environment
just like
to
Hitman.
do that. Yeah,
pick up a banana and throw it at somebody.
Right. I think that would be kind of cool if they could incorporate that kind of flexibility into a chase sequence.
If they can see, I'll tell you this right now. I'm going to make my prediction right now. Right, this is Babe Ruth calling his shot.
Okay.
If they can manage to make chase sequences interact seamlessly with their open world level designs, they will have absolutely a hit on their hands.
Okay. What if they're underwater?
Here's the thing. Don't make it like Thunderball's fight scene.
Right.
Which means you need to make your underwater sequence less than 6 weeks long.
Right.
Number 2, give me a vehicle.
Right.
If I'm underwater and I'm in a vehicle, I'm definitely way more down with that than me just swimming around and, let me guess, you're going to give me a harpoon gun and I'm going to have an oxygen meter and I'm going to move slower than homemade shit. And no, don't do that. We can already see it coming a mile away. It's not compelling. It's not fun. You're just making the background blue and making the controls terrible.
What if you're doing some sort of reconnaissance kind of like exploration work as a part of...
Oh, you want me to have a reason to go slow and steady underwater instead of doing something vaguely exciting? Sign me up. No.
I mean, but it's like some people would look at that, looking through a house, looking at all the individual objects, seeing what they do.
I like that.
Right. But how is it not...
How is it worse underwater?
Yeah, how is it worse underwater if you're doing the similar tasks underwater? Like you're excavating some sort of wreckage of a plane that went down, that SPECTRE or whatever brought the plane down, and you've got to investigate.
Sure, but let me ask you this. In this scenario that you've just come up with,
right,
you're going to be underwater, right?
Right.
Are you going to have a harpoon gun? Are you going to have a harpoon gun? You're probably going to have a harpoon gun. Are you going to have an oxygen meter you have to watch?
Probably.
Yeah, you're going to have an oxygen. Right. Are you going to move slower than you would in the levels where you're not underwater?
No, you're not going to have an oxygen meter because Q's going to make that little thing that you just put in your face and you can just breathe underwater. That was in Thunderball where
it was.
Yeah.
Wasn't it just an oxygen mask?
I don't even think it was it was just a little thing.
Or are you talking about we're going to go full on James Cameron's Abyss and we're just going to have Bond breathe water through the helmet?
Yeah.
My point is, this sequence that you're imagining,
right?
Is there any reason for what do we get from it being underwater?
Well, I mean, I think it's part of if it's part of the story, it's no,
gameplay wise. What do we get from having that be underwater with the presumably slower controls and the cliched harpoon gun and the oxygen meter and the slower reaction time?
Just variety in where places to explore, like anything else.
So hold on to that thought. Let's put a pin in it. Now, what do you think the rationale for every single underwater level up to this point has been, which you and I have agreed universally suck?
Okay. The thing is, and like I said, I remain optimistic. I took a look at the footage for Subnautica, what you were saying.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like my cup of tea. I thought, someone told me that it was developed as a VR game.
Oh, really?
Does that make any...
That tracks.
Yeah. Does it tracks?
Yeah.
Does it tracks? Does it track? So, yeah, I mean... It didn't look like my thing. It looked a little bit like you were collecting stuff and then fighting a boss monster.
It's a crafting survival game. Yeah.
And it didn't really appeal to me because there wasn't any. Like, what's the difference between exploring a wreckage and exploring an underwater cave or system of caves? To me, it's about does it fit into the mission so much? It's not. I don't look at it and go, oh, shit, a water level. If it's something that fits into the story and I'm doing things that kind of fit into what the story is telling me, it fits into the narrative, which I think, I think of James Bond movies and I think of underwater sequences. Not always the best.
I agree with that, but I'm saying is we can make it so it's not the torturous underwater level that comes packed with a bunch of cliches and all that.
Right,
Let's have the underwater level be you controlling a remote vehicle underwater. Right? And give you a new tool set to play with and some new capabilities and make it interesting and fun instead of this is all the same stuff I have to do on land, but I have to do it slower and with a harpoon gun.
Right.
I hate harpoon guns in games, by the way.
Really?
They're just
what about in real life?
They're boss in real life. Right. I've got 6 or 7 of them.
Oh.
I don't have 6 or 7 harpoon guns.
No. How many blowguns do you have?
I've got a recorder from the 3rd grade that has like the end chewed off.
Oh, okay. So it's
it
kind of like
could be
a
makeshift blowgun. Although I guess you've got a 1 in 8 chance of the dart going straight up instead of out the other end. So maybe not the best idea. Oh, actually, you've got, depending on what you're playing on the recorder, when you blow through the blowpipe, you could theoretically shoot yourself in the fingers with a dart. So not the best idea. Anyway, what I'm saying is, if you're going to do an underwater Bond level, make it different. Don't make it the same shit you do on land, but slower and clunkier.
Right. Agreed.
Anyway, but yes,
we can agree on that.
We can absolutely agree on that. And the chase thing, we are down to clown with chasing.
Next thing is gadgets ?
Are you in favor of gadgets or question marks?
Yes, we need more punctuation in James Bond games. We need semicolons. We need tildes.
It's got to be Project 007, colon.
We need to apostrophize everything. Is that a word?
The Ludmilla Syndicate, colon, origins.
No. I think there's a balance there. When you talked about the skills or the tool set, if it fits into the tool set and it's not super zany kind of thing. But there should be sort of a reward where you get to use the super zany thing in some interesting creative way at the end. It's like you got to figure out how to use the super zany weird,
almost points for MacGyvering your way out of a situation using your tools.
Like you've got some sort of like thermal like wire thing that you got to use in some sort of creative way, but you can only use it in a couple, or
maybe exactly. Instead of using your thermal wire to blow open a door, right, maybe you wrap it around an ice sculpture and melt the ice sculpture to create a puddle of water that gets somebody with a key card to slip on it. But I mean, those types of interesting. IO Interactive, if you're listening, I am in the market for work, so just drop me a note.
All right, thank you, Chris. Okay, so gadgets. Now here, my next item is definitely a must, and I can't imagine them missing the mark on this.
Okay.
Diverse locations all over the world.
100%.
I mean, 100%. That you gotta, and they've got to be, they got to make sense in the whole movement thing, the airplane going on the map from place to place. But I mean, just kind of, it's.
I think one of the really interesting things I read in an interview from one of Hitman's designers is their approach to level design and how it evolved,
right?
And how they didn't necessarily they thought of it as a big sandboxy level, but they really wanted each parts of that sandbox to have its own feel. So there were levels where, you're traipsing around this, South American jungle, and it's a very tiny kind of dirt road village, but then another part of that same level is an underground submarine base.
Right.
And so it feels like you're getting more than one level inside a level. And so I hope they take that approach to...
Oh, gosh, they have to, right?
Yeah, to what you're saying.
That kind of leads to my next item, which is no space !
I mean, it's right up there with no underwater for me.
Well, and that's the thing, too. Maybe in later iterations of this James Bond game, if they're successful. I mean, I think about space levels like you think about water levels, which is if you put it in there just because it's just a diverse, it's just like something different.
Right.
The physics are never right. It doesn't feel like, at least with the underwater, you're you say that it's slow and shitty. Well, that's kind of what being underwater.
But at least it has an up and a down.
Right. And of course, no one can hear you scream.
Also true. And I do a lot of screaming when I play.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think a lot of it boils down to what their overall tone is for the game, right? If they're going to be sort of the more recent, more grounded, down to earth type of Bond game, I don't think you have to worry about a space level.
Right.
If they're going to go, late 70s Moonraker type Bond, then he may get in a space shuttle. I don't see them doing that though.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Oh, I just had a horrible thought.
Okay.
They try and do a retrospective, like go all retro and kind of do like James Bond in different time frames. I don't want to see that.
Hang on.
Like different eras, right? Like you got your 70s kind of
I see
your
what
60s
you're doing.
and your 80s.
Well, I was thinking, no, I get that. Although I wouldn't be opposed to perhaps as DLC or something like that. Hey, we crafted a DLC level based off this specific movie.
Oh, yeah.
Sequence or scene,
Oh yeah, but didn't EA make they made a game from Russia with Love, which
then they brought back Connery to do the voiceover. Yeah. I like that.
And
game.
that was the only part that I was impressed by. It was just the Connery.
I mean, it was a standard third person. It was Siphon Filter,
right?
Basically.
Right.
By the way, R.I.P. Siphon Filter.
Right.
Much love.
So anyway,
you got to siphon your filters every damn day.
Really?
Yeah, it's right up there with mulching.
Mulch. Yeah, I don't know. What do I think of? What are those things called? Funnels. Anyway, so
how did the word funnels escape your vocabulary?
I have no idea.
Brief, but
okay, so here's my next list item: original theme song for the game, its own opening sequence.
Totally
do
agreed.
it up all like an actual James Bond movie,
like it's its own movie,
right?
Yep,
and have a unique artist, especially hire someone. I've got some I don't know, there's like a higher quality artist. You don't have to go super high quality. There's an artist that I like from New Zealand named Benny. She's got a very interesting and creative and fun approach to music, and I think getting someone who likes to experiment would be the perfect choice for a James Bond thing. I don't know if you want to have like a contest where people kind of call in. They go,
Caller, would you like to be the sound of our multi-million-dollar AAA video game?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
First time, long time. Yeah, no, you don't.
Okay, here we go.
The first name popped into my head.
Yeah.
Jen Wigmore.
Oh, who's that? I've never.
She is, I believe she's also either Australian or New Zealandish. She actually, one of her songs was in, believe it or not, a Heineken beer commercial around the same time, I want to say, Skyfall came out. That was actually an ad for James Bond.
Huh.
But she's got a very, she's I think she could do it. She's a great artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Some new up and comer.
Yeah, you don't need, Jay-Z or The Weeknd or somebody, super famous in pop culture to do it. This is going to be a big deal.
Right.
It's going to be a big release.
Yeah.
People are going to associate it with a big franchise.
Right.
You are, for all intents and purposes, going to be the face of that franchise to a significant part of the population.
Right.
Wouldn't hurt you to throw some cash towards a theme song.
Right.
What's next on that list?
Here's the last one, and it's going to be controversial.
Uh-oh. Is this the Ben Checkness stance on in-game nudity?
It's actually extra clothing. Everyone needs to wear at least three jackets.
Everybody has to bundle up.
Yes,
because it's cold out there.
Doesn't matter if you're in the jungles.
Right. You best be rocking the turtleneck.
Exactly.
And 2 pairs of woolies.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. I've heard the discussion, and I've heard people have very strong opinions about various genders and ethnicities of Bond characters. And how, it's not supposed, James Bond can't be, it's like, well, it's not really James Bond. They call it 007, right? It's 00. 007 can be anyone. It doesn't have to be James Bond.
I agree.
So as such, I think that you should be able to create your own Bond. Your own Bond gender, your own Bond, whatever you want.
That
Bond the way you want.
That is an amazing idea, and I hope you're listening to this because I hadn't even considered that, and I think that is a great idea for this game.
Do we need to hear James Bond speak?
I mean, part of the character is delivering stupid one-liners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you want those in the game?
Oh, I gotta have those one-liners, man. You're telling me I can't improvise my way into killing somebody with an icicle and not say, "Ice to meet you"?
Yeah. Freeze.
Freeze. That's a good one.
Yeah.
He got cold feet.
You get ranked based on which
bon mot
which
you deliver.
Yeah. You deliver.
You burnt.
Yep.
Yeah. The James Bond you burnt score.
Just like
every time you deliver the one-liner.
Right.
No, I think it should be voiced. I think you've got to have him as an active. Here's the thing. And this is probably a whole nother episode on voiceless protagonists versus voiced protagonists. But because he is such a character, I mean, it's not called the 007 franchise, it's called the James Bond franchise. Whoever your incarnation of your particular Bond might be.
Right.
I think you definitely go voiced. I think there's too many... I think it's too big of an opportunity to have a witty, dynamic script for the game to not have the protagonist voice some lines. Does that mean you might have to hire 3 or 4 or 5 different voice actors to read the same lines in a different sort of mood or tone? Sure. But, if BioWare can do it with Baldur's Gate 20 years ago for way less of a budget, you can spring for some decent voice acting for your James Bond game.
Yeah. What do you think about romance? You bring up your...
I'm in favor.
Are you?
Oh, you mean in the game?
In the...
Damn it.
Yeah.
Focus problem.
Okay. Well, thanks. Yeah. I'm single. Anyway. So, okay. What I was going to say was...
Romance in the game.
Yeah, romance in the game only if it leads... I mean, it's like... I mean, I think your games, your BioWare games specifically, kind of bridge that gap in an interesting kind of way, and it's like you learn about characters by being romantic with them. You learn things about Garrus by in what is it 2 or 3 when you could romance Garrus?
2 and 3.
Yeah. You learn things about him that you wouldn't learn by normal interaction. So there is some
like what he looks like with his pants off.
I don't think that They showed that, did they?
No, but you're talking about things you learn through romance.
Oh, we're talking. That's not romance. It's sex.
Oh, right.
It's about yeah. Love Gun isn't about love. It's about your yeah. Anyway.
Oh, there's a deep cut.
Yeah, deep cut.
Yes, but here's the thing. I don't think a Bond game needs romance. I think it needs flirting. I don't think it needs to have a romantic subplot necessarily.
Right. Because when I think of a successful double agent, right, there is some interaction and some information gathering that requires you to
lie and use people.
Be charming and do all these things that may lead to romance, but it doesn't have to always end up in the bedroom.
Absolutely.
And I think the game would do itself a disservice if it forced this stuff.
And it becomes a distraction.
Right.
Right. You don't need that stuff to tell a good Bond story.
Right.
I mean, it has never been essential to the plot of a good Bond story.
Right.
With the exception of the one time he got married, and what did they do? They killed her at the end of the movie. So really, you know, whether you're romancing a guy or a girl or non-binary or whoever, you don't want... I think it's tasteless to put that in the context of I'm using this person to further my gameplay goals.
Right.
Because I think that's when romance becomes icky, and you don't want your protagonist to become an icky person.
Correct.
Don't be an icky person, game players.
Right.
Don't use people.
But get information out of them.
But yes, feel free to lie and lie to them in order to accomplish your gameplay goals, because they're not real people.
Yeah, but just do it. Don't do it in
But
real
don't
life.
do it in an icky way. Yeah. Just be better. Come on.
Come on, people.
Right? You nodding your head. Be better.
So I've got a question for you before we wrap this up. Do you know what SPECTRE stands for? That's another thing.
I used to know this.
Yeah, that's another question. Do we want SPECTRE in the game? Is it necessary? And
here's the thing. Again, and I know you had the thing earlier. Here's another thing. I love evil organizations.
Okay.
I love SPECTRE. I love Chaos. I love what was the one from Inspector Gadget?
Dr. Claw.
Dr. Claw, he had a whole thing.
Yeah.
Chaos was Get Smart, right?
Chaos was Get Smart.
Okay. I love Uncle and the men therein. Who was there? Who Smirsh, right?
Yeah.
Smirsh.
Okay,
which
I was going to say,
actual.
Smirsh was an actual. That was originally what Ian Fleming.
SPECTRE was an off-brand Smirsh, right?
Right. It was not specific to
not specifically Soviet Smirsh.
Correct.
Yeah,
it's not specific to any government. It's specific to people who are various. People who want world domination.
So you've got
independent of countries.
So you've got two choices, right? The bad guys can either be a country.
Right.
In which case, choose your words carefully.
Correct.
IO Interactive.
Right.
And your
I'd say Canada.
Well,
those maple leaves,
we'll never see it coming.
Syrup.
We'll never see it coming.
Never.
Tim Hortons, they're all safe houses.
Oh.
They've all got steel curtains that just lock down.
Right.
So you can either go nationalist enemy or independent enemy.
Right.
Right. And I think the safer and the more quote unquote fun way to go is with an independent enemy.
Okay.
And so when I think about an independent enemy, what's more believable? Some guy who's managed to pay, say, 600 mercenaries to dress the same and run after you blindly and get shot? Or a multinational evil organization with corporate ties and fingers in a host of pies?
Right.
I do. I mean, spy-wise, I love international evil organizations.
Yeah.
They just do it for me, man.
I also want to see an evil person press a button and have someone's chair.
Yes.
Yeah, or electrocute someone.
Yes. I want to see steepling of fingers.
Yeah.
I want to see
what about cat petting?
Cat petting is okay.
What about a marmot?
Wow. Actually, you know what would be really evil is to see somebody, drop the cat off at the Humane Society and immediately go out and buy a marmot from a marmot mill.
Oh boy.
Right? That's how you know it's a bad guy.
Yeah. Or maybe
I don't know. I think I think in a Bond game you need to have a main antagonist that's got a huge personality,
right?
That's almost as big a part of the story as the hero.
I think that's going to be the key.
And I don't think you can do that by placing it in a context of, oh, this whole game I'm going to be fighting Russian,
right?
The Russian military.
Right. Let's come up with and I think the villains, which is what James Bond does very well, which is give the villains from Largo to Jaws to Odd Job to whatever, interesting personalities, even if they're just hitmen for the opposition.
Right,
they've got interesting stories themselves that you want to.
I have long thought, and again, this goes back to their strengths already shown in the Hitman series. I have long thought a way to really kind of goose the Hitman gameplay is to make it player versus player.
Oh, wow.
And have you versus another hitman with the same tool set and the same ability traversing the map trying to kill each other. In Re the Henchman, give me a hitman level where I know somebody's coming for me.
Right.
And I have to outwit them knowing they could do everything plus a little bit of whatever their special, if Odd Job has the steel razor hat.
That would be
or
cool.
whatever.
That
I would love, and I've got to accomplish my mission while being stalked. Come on now.
Yeah.
I'll eat that up all day long. Hitman 3 had a level very similar to that.
Right.
The Berlin nightclub, where you had 10 agency operatives. You didn't know who they were and what they looked like necessarily, and so they were all looking to pick you off.
Right.
So,
that's pretty. Yeah, I remember that level. That was annoying. So anyway. Because I tried to do things like shoot through walls and stuff. And
why would you try and shoot through a wall?
Because I was playing. I played Cyberpunk 2077, and I could do that in there, and that was so much fun. Just shooting through walls.
Wow, it's just like you didn't go straight to Mario Golf.
Yeah. F you, Luigi.
Yeah.
Bam. Dead.
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
Anyway, we probably need to wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap this up.
Closing thoughts.
Yeah, my closing thought on IO Interactive. I'm cautiously optimistic that they're going to do a great job based on the rest of their their stuff. Even didn't they do Kane and Lynch? Even. Okay, we don't use.
You can edit that part of the podcast out, right?
Can we? I don't know, man.
Boy, I hope we can.
You didn't like Kane and Lynch?
No.
What was your problem with it?
I didn't like any of the people in that game.
Okay, so it's kind of like you didn't identify with them, or they're just ridiculously horrible people?
No, they were just terrible people.
Yeah.
It's the same reason I didn't like GTA 5. Yeah.
But anyway, it's about the narrative, right? It's about identifying with these characters.
Right.
But I think the main thing is I want to be my own Bond. I want to create my own Bond the way I want to create it, and then live that life as James Bond.
I think it's a great ad.
And that doesn't have to detract from any of the game mechanics or anything. It's just an extra little thing that you can put in there to go, yes.
And you know what I would love to see in sort of in accordance with that is one of the bigger disbelief suspension mechanisms that you have to acquire in Hitman is the fact that as soon as you put on the clothes of somebody else, everybody assumes you're that somebody else, right?
Except maybe one or two guys,
and everybody's just already made this agreement. Listen, we're not going to mention the barcode, all right? So
is that you're Clark Kent? That's
so. What I would love to see, in addition to the create your own Bond thing, is for some disguises to be more or less effective based on the kind of Bond you create.
Yeah.
So if you create, let's say, a Native American James Bond, right?
Right.
And you have to go to, let's say, a Native American reservation or a casino or something like that, right?
Right.
You might be able to blend in better with the Native American population.
That would be.
And some of the uniforms and positions and jobs that those folks have work better on you.
Right.
Whereas if you stroll in as Mr. Pasty Pale White Barcode Face,
right,
and try to pass yourself off as a Native American, you are going to get some looks.
Right.
Right.
And I think that would be a really difficult tightrope.
It's a minefield. It's a huge minefield.
It's a huge minefield because people will go, oh, well, these are not the jobs that, But
that may have been a poor example, but I guess I'm thinking most of like the Hitman levels that were set in India.
Right.
Where suddenly, because I put on a traditional Indian, garb,
right,
suddenly everybody just buys the fact that I've been working in this laundry for forever.
Right.
Right. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I don't know.
It's going to be a fine balance, but that's...
You may need an 11-foot pole.
Yeah.
Spring for the extra foot, IO.
2x4, 2x5, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But yes, I am not even cautiously optimistic. I am full bore optimism. I think they're going to nail this.
So like pre-order if it comes out tomorrow.
I don't pre-order games, but
if I was
a pre-ordering man,
yeah,
I would absolutely plunk my money down. I have a lot of faith in them. I think this is right in their wheelhouse.
It's perfect. Yeah, I don't think you could have come up with a better company to hand the keys of the Ferrari to.
That's right.
Whatever.
Of the Aston Martin.
Of the DeLorean.
Right. He drives an Aston Martin.
I know, but I was just going to say, like, what's the worst thing? You could pass the keys.
Hand the keys to the Kia to them.
Yes, to the Yugo. To the Fiat.
And that's our episode.
On Spy. And I hope you enjoyed it. My name was Ben. It's still Ben.
It's now Steve.
No, my name is Ben.
His name is Ben.
And thank you for joining us. All right, are we...